Again, I'm Shawntel with the Wayne County Chamber. For some of you that may have not have met me, I feel like I pretty much know everybody on this call. Welcome again. Thanks for taking time to join us. We feel this is very important for our Wayne County employees and high school students. If you haven't already, which I haven't asked you to, so you probably haven't, if you haven't, would you please share in the comment your name and the organization you are with, just so I have notes and I can follow back up with. If you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Feel free to come off mute and ask them. If not, we will have time at the end where we can answer questions too. But if you feel like there's something right then that you want to ask, please feel free. With that said, again, I'm the Director of Employer Engagement at the Chamber. I am pretty much the bridge now going forward between the employers and the schools. The goal was to have one contact for each. So now I have one person I work with at the school, and then going forward, I'll have one person at the employer. So then that way, the employers, you guys, are not getting 6 different phone calls from 6 different schools, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and everybody else to ask you guys questions about taking interns. So hopefully this will really help filter the process, make it smooth, make it manageable, and continue to grow, because again, we're going to need lots of internships in Wayne County. So today we are going to go through what this kind of looks like from the student angle. We will also go through some financial, paid, unpaid, what that looks like going forward, where there's some assistance, how to work through some of those issues. And then we're going to follow up with how do we prepare you as employers to start bringing interns into your facility and your organization. So with that said, I do have a few helpers today, a great team of mine. We worked on this together. So I have Teresa Lindsay. She's with the Economic Development Corporation of Richmond. Many of you on this call probably know her. We also have Wayne Williams. He's with Eastern Indiana Works, and Mark Broker with Neighborhood Health Center. And again, you probably know many of us. So hopefully this helps a little bit of the tension or easing into it. What I'm going to do is go ahead and bring the presentation up, and then I'm going to hand it off to Teresa to get us started. So let me share my screen. I also want to give a shout out to Alexis Harmon. She's with the Chamber as well. She's our marketing and communication specialist. She's been a great asset to us helping create this presentation, and she's just a great team player. So thank you, Alexis.
So good morning, everybody. I'm just going to give a tiny bit of background so that you understand where this process started. Forward Wayne County had an employability coalition, and in my role at the EDC, I'm in all of our employers across Wayne County, and pieces kept coming up about not trained employees. We need more employees. We need better skill sets. So we started a conversation in this employability coalition, which Mark was a part of, Wayne was a part of a couple of years ago, on work-based learning and how that could look for our county and working with our employers. And so we had started a lot of that work. And from an economic development standpoint, we look at it as a trained workforce helps us recruit businesses to come here. It helps our existing businesses be able to expand. And it also helps to combat the population decline that everybody on this call knows is unfortunately a piece that we're dealing with in Wayne County. And so today's students are the workforce for tomorrow. And it's become obvious that just being in school is not enough. And then the state of Indiana decided to make some changes. So we in Wayne County are very blessed that we're a little bit ahead of the curve compared to the other 91 counties in the state, that we already have a lot of this piece done based on the state graduation requirements that now require for students to be able to earn a seal, they have to have some work-based learning opportunities. So it's going to give real-world experience and a talented workforce for our employers. And so on this next screen that Shawntel's going to put up, and you guys will get this slide deck, I think, correct, Shawntel?
Yes.
Okay. So like you don't have to sit and study it and write a bunch of stuff down, but the new seals from the state of Indiana require all of our students to have a piece of work-based learning in their core graduation requirements if they want to graduate with a seal. And the state, in their infinite wisdom, has now unfortunately attached money to those seals. So for our schools to continue their funding and be able to get the maximum they can get for their students, they have to have a work-based learning experience. So if they're going to college and that's the track they're on, they have to have 75 hours of a work-based learning experience. If they are going into the work world, they have to have a minimum of 150 hours. And then if they want to get the Honors Plus seal, they have to have 650 hours. So that's a lot of work-based learning. And then if they're going the enlistment route, they have to have some work-based learning as well. But just to give everybody on the call an idea of how many students we're talking about in Wayne County. So we've partnered with all 5 of our public school corporations as well as Seton Catholic School. We currently have 800 juniors. The schools would like for us to have about 80% of those students be able to have a work-based learning opportunity because some of the kids are just going to be on a different track and it's not going to work for them. So that's over 600 students that we need to have some type of work-based learning experience for Wayne County. So that just kind of puts it in a little bit of perspective for you guys as to why our office and the chamber is so involved in this, because it is our workforce, it is our county moving forward. So it's a lot of students and we got to find ways to help them. So this program matters for several reasons. And things we need you to think about as we're going through this is it creates value for your business. It strengthens and grows our workforce in Wayne County, which makes everyone in our office's job easier. It builds career-ready skills for high school students. And when I'm out in the community, the number one need that I hear from employers is our students need soft skills. They need to be able to understand that you come dressed appropriately. You need to be able to write an email. You need to be able to have a conversation with someone and be looking at them, not looking at your hands or your phone or your lap or your feet. So this is also going to give those kids a chance to be able to develop that in a space outside of the school. So it's definitely got a very important purpose. You got it, Shawntel?
Yep.
So thank you. So we, the Employability Coalition, the Chamber, the EDC, we all worked together and we decided that we've got to collaborate to make it work. If you've got every school corporation trying to figure it out on their own, no one's going to be a participant. So we decided to create this program to help make it easier for our school corporations and for our participating organizations. So it helps align the workforce needs with the training that they are getting in the classroom. It gives a shared responsibility for student success because the employers want them to be successful, the schools want them to be successful, and as a community, we want them to be successful and participating in our tax base and being a good community partner and volunteering in organizations. And to be able to be out in our employers is where they're going to learn to be able to do that. So the employers are working to make their workforce better with this program. So what is an internship? If you've never done it, here's the quick answer. It's a hands-on learning experience. So it's going to be connected to their classroom instruction in some way. It's going to give them skill development and career exploration because they may go to a facility and it may not be what they're looking for. So then they go to a different place. And you can look at it several different ways. Like some organizations say, we really don't have someone to manage someone in person. Could they have a remote kind of experience, or could they have a mixture hybrid of it? So we're going to talk a little bit about each of those to give you guys some ideas and help you start thinking about how it could look in your organization. And we understand, just from all the people on this call, every organization is different. Every organization's needs are different. And what this group wants to do is to be able to help you find a way to make it work in your organization. And we're not just throwing you out there and having you do it on your own. We've got some tools in place to help you. So in-person internship is the most common. So that's where this student comes for X amount of hours per day, either in the morning or the afternoon, to your work site, and they can do whatever project you have. Do you need market research? Do you need data done? Do you need a new process written up or instructions written for it? Those are things that they can come to your facility and maybe follow your processes, but then it could turn into a remote one because they could do part of that back at school during their class time, because there are challenges to get the students there every day. And I know Mark's going to talk about that a little bit later, but then there's a hybrid type. So they could maybe come to your site 2 days a week and work on a project that you give them for 3 days a week in the school. Or could it be a group project? Could their entire class work on something for your organization? And we have a couple of our employers that have done that with Western Wayne schools. A couple of our manufacturing facilities have had processes that they needed updated. And so they take the parts to Western Wayne, and the students in a class work on that project together. So there are all kinds of ways that we can look at making it work for your organization. So these are also some effective internship opportunities, which is a job shadow. That's a traditional long-term placement. Students work on site, and it's usually aligned with their career goals. So student interns at a hospital shadowing nurses is a pretty good example. There are a lot of job shadow opportunities that are not paid. And, we would like for every kid to have an opportunity to have it paid, but we understand that not all organizations are going to be able to do that. And Wayne's going to talk a little bit about ways we can help you get some help with the funding piece of it. And then apprenticeships are structured long-term programs. And we have a couple of our organizations in Wayne County that have a pretty good, robust apprenticeship program. So the kids kind of go there in high school and they work through. But when you look at trades, and I hear it a lot for our manufacturing people that are on the call, maintenance, tool and die, those types of roles are still very needed, and the supply for people to be able to do that is very short. So we have several of our organizations that would love to have a student be a maintenance kind of apprentice and come in every afternoon and work with their maintenance department and see how the pieces work. And then perhaps that organization can send the student through school and they can get certified. So HVAC, electricians, all sorts of those pieces are there. And there are some opportunities that we can work with you with Ivy Tech to be able to create some of those pathways and pipelines. So we have all kinds of organizations working to help that go. So it's going to bring you a lot. If you look at, these are the 5, what I feel like are the 5 best things that can, when you have a student come to your building, you're building your future workforce. Think about when you hire someone, how long does it take you to train them to be able to understand how the processes in your building work? Just think about if you had a student that had been there every afternoon, 3 days a week for the past 2 years. That student's going to be well trained and ready to go into a full-time role immediately. So you're creating and training your own workforce while you're also benefiting our student and our community. They're going to integrate faster. They're going to stay longer. Studies have been done that say interns, apprentices continue to work for those organizations for years. So you are getting a good, solid base to build from. Gain fresh perspectives, and I'm allowed to share this story. But so Blue Buffalo had an intern, and in their HR department, and they were struggling with Excel and how they were going to compute some data and all this. And this little intern from Western Wayne was a little rock star and created this whole program and taught all 4 of the HR people at Blue Buffalo a new process. So they bring fresh eyes and a fresh set of skills to your team. So it does help you increase your productivity, and it strengthens your team if they can learn a new skill. You also have to think about your team members being a leader. So when you look at who you're going to put an intern with, you want to put them with someone that is going to be a good teacher. And then you might see skills in that person that's teaching that student that you didn't see before. So there are some long and short-term goals. Chronic absenteeism. It helps kids, and absenteeism is unfortunately a problem in our school corporations. We would like for it to be less. So we feel like this is going to keep the kids engaged and want to look forward to going to school. You develop your own workforce. All the school corporations across the county are participating. And this is an area where you can see growth over years in your organization. So it's not just a quick fix. We look at this as a very long-term process and benefit for Wayne County. So you gain new ideas and energy, you enhance your community reputation, you support local economic growth, and you develop strong mentor leaders in your facility. So you can't ask for any more than that. It's a win-win for everyone, really. And it gives you kind of a new skill set for your, like I said, with the Blue example, their HR team all got a new skill set that they didn't have before. So your team can learn things from the students as well. And it benefits the students when they feel like they're teaching someone. So just a little bit to kind of get you in the thought process for students. We did some teen workforce chats a couple years ago. Mark and I went out with a group of people. We went to all 5 of the school corporations. Things that motivate students are a balanced work, school, and life. So please understand they are still students. So if your organization is an organization that has a lot of overtime, they may not be able to participate in that. If they are an athlete, they're going to have practices and games they need to attend to. So they want to feel a part of the team, but you also have to remember that they're still students. Pieces that will not motivate students, and we heard this a lot, didn't we, Mark? Toxic or disrespectful environments. Some people were condescending to the students. And so then it makes them not want to go. If they didn't have a good supervisor or their expectations of what they needed to do weren't clear, they didn't find it of any kind of value. So a positive experience is going to make a good workforce for you, and a good workforce and a good opportunity for the students, even if they don't stay in your organization. Hopefully they'll land in another employer in Wayne County. And so you still benefit from it by us growing our workforce here. So things to think about: clear roles and expectations. Students don't know what they don't know. If you don't make it clear to them, they're not going to be engaged if they don't understand what they need to do. Needs to be meaningful work, not busy work. And I can tell you, I graduated from Richmond High School many years ago. And if you did a job shadow or an internship, most of the time you were emptying trash, filing, those kind of things. The students don't want to do that. They want to learn something. It's going to be better for you. Supportive mentorship, open communication, and respect and inclusion. So think about those pieces as you may now be thinking about who in my organization could be a good person to be a leader with these kids. Now I'm going to throw it to my friend Wayne, and he's going to talk to you about money.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, so you may be thinking, okay, we've had interns before. We may have struggled with paying them. If you have the opportunity or the ability to pay an intern, great. That's awesome. That's exactly what we want. Not only does it put some money, obviously, in their pocket, it gives you a good intern and experience, but also, should you choose to hire them, makes that transition to employment much more easy. But if you need some help, there are programs like EARN, which stands for Employment Aid Readiness Network, and some paid work experience programming through Eastern Indiana Works, which if you're not familiar with Eastern Indiana Works, we are the workforce development board for 9 counties in Eastern Indiana, obviously including Wayne. There's organizations like Ascend Indiana that can help advocate, support, and connect, and we'll talk a little bit about their council that you can become involved with to kind of help figure out some of these things as you're looking on bringing interns next year. And if you're looking at longer term experiences, I'm going to dive a little bit into the advantages of apprenticeship. You may or may not be familiar, but as a DOL intermediary, Eastern Works can also support attachments to apprenticeships as well. So let's talk a little bit about each one of these. EARN Indiana is the state's work study program, and it's led by the Commission for Higher Education. Students will get access to some financial resources, resume building, of course, paid internships, and this is a 50-50 match between the employer, and the Commission on Higher Education for the EARN program. So it can take a little bit of that burden off if you're looking at, we can pay them, but we just can't pay them what the equivalent of another employee is for a like position. This is where the EARN program comes in. And the eligibility for a high school student, the threshold's pretty low. They got to be an Indiana resident and enrolled into school. And that's all the kids that we're talking about here today. To qualify, employers have to be, they can be a college or university. They need to be, they can be a state or local government organization, private, not-for-profit, or a for-profit, which I think everybody on this call and just about every business in Wayne County would qualify. Internships must be paid to qualify for matching funds. They must last at least 8 weeks. The intern must work at least 12 to 20 hours during the school year. They can work up to 40 during the summer. The activities can't be political or sectarian. So no politics, no religious activities. No more than 25% of interns' work can be administrative. This kind of goes back to Teresa's point of making the experience meaningful and worthwhile. It can't just be filing papers and taking out the trash. No more than half of the employer's workforce can be interns. So while we want you to take on a bunch of them, it can't be more than half of your existing workforce. Let's just say federal work study funds, cannot be received for the same internship. So you can't kind of pool or braid different funding. We'll make sure we get that changed on the deck before it goes out to you. Let's talk a little bit about Ascend. And at the bottom there, that bottom bullet, you'll see their Vice President of Workforce Strategies, Alex Magos' email address. If you're interested in becoming a member or a participant in the Ascend Workforce Council, it's a statewide network of employers from all different sectors that are trying to solve some of the workforce challenges. And they focus a lot on high school and college level work-based learning, trying to connect students to careers. That way we don't have this kind of adult population of job seekers that kind of don't know what they want to do, where they can go. And while Eastern Indiana Works leads all the efforts through the Work One system, what we'd like to see is more young people using those resources as opposed to adult job seekers as they, gain and lose employment throughout their adult years. The Workforce Council convenes quarterly. They have different working groups, different think tanks. They have access to some really great data and research. So if you're really looking at how to maximize the potential of an intern organization, this is the group that you would go to. And again, if you're interested in joining or at least interested in learning more, you can reach out to Alex to have that conversation. I'm not sure at the moment how many Wayne County employers are participating in that, but I don't believe it's a lot. And I think that group could really benefit from your perspective. So let's talk a little bit about Eastern Indiana Works paid work experience program. So if there's a student that identifies they want to go work with an employer and they connect with us, the employer doesn't have to have a current paid work experience agreement. We like when students come to us and say, I want to go work at this employer, then that's where that's where my work comes in, to have that conversation. Of course, that funnel can work backwards as well. If you're like, hey, I want to do this, Wayne, we just need a kid. That's when, of course, you'll work with Shawntel to kind of pick out those students that might be right for the experience. But what's really great about this, and I'm not going to read word for word, is that the student becomes an employee of our service provider. So not to get too much in the weeds, but the individuals that work inside of the Work One offices, some of them are state employees and some of them work for a company called Equus Workforce Solutions. Equus is the nation's largest workforce solutions provider. That's true for Work Ones, American Job Centers across the state of Indiana. Typically, the folks that work in there don't work for the workforce board or work for the state. they work for in another organization altogether. Why does that matter? It's because if you're going to take on an intern or you take on a student with a paid work experience, they don't become an employee of yours, they become an employee of ours. So we take care of the HR processes, we take care of the payroll, we take care of paying the student for the experience while they work in your facility. So it really truncates all that front end that you have to do, takes a little bit of that liability away, and you don't have to worry about putting them on your payroll. And these are W-2 employees as well. They just happen to be an employee of ours working at your site. So I don't need to tell you, and this isn't a bullet point on the slide, but having a W-2 job, having to navigate what I'm going to do come tax time as a young person, these are all very new things. So there's an added benefit of putting them on our payroll as a W-2 employee, aside from just having a worker at your site. And again, that conversation happens between the student and the employer in Eastern Indiana Works about what that experience looks like, what that job looks like. And one of the greatest things I think that's kind of an untapped non-monetary benefit of our paid work experience programming is our career coaches continue to work with and monitor the student throughout the experience and after. Because what can happen here is they go on an 8-week or 12-week experience, they had a great time, you choose not to hire them because it's just not the right fit or the experience was meant to be temporary. We want to continue to support that young person in finding their next experience, or if they're getting close to graduation, what they're actually going to do after high school. But we also work with you throughout, the employer. So if you're having a hard time with the student, if they need to be connected to other resources, or they need to work on their communication skills or their punctuality, those are conversations that we can have with those students as well. And the whole experience, just like any other internship or work-based learning experience, kind of acts as an opportunity to test a fit within the culture. Again, without you as the employer taking on a ton of that any of that financial burden in these cases. So I want to talk a little bit about apprenticeships, because some of you may host them, some of you may be a little familiar. Apprenticeships are much longer, more involved experiences and can range from 1 year, which in the apprenticeship world, that's about 2,000 hours of work-based learning, and a combination of related technical instruction, so kind of classroom style learning, or up to 4 years or more. If you're looking at journeyman, some of your longer term apprenticeship trades, those can be much longer experiences. The benefit for apprenticeships runs the game, and I actually have 2 slides to kind of talk about it. But one of the best things about it is it qualifies for the Employment Honors Plus seal within the school because it's so robust. It's an easy cover of that 650 hours of work-based learning time. Obviously, if 1,000 hours is the minimum. Last year, various Wayne County employers hosted apprenticeships. We would love to see that number of experiences grow. The federal government is really invested in Department of Labor is really invested in providing resources to local areas, to states, and employers on helping support some of these. Obviously, 4,000 hours in a 4-year time frame is a financial investment. If there's related technical instruction, and there has to be as part of an apprenticeship, that's at a cost as well. So the federal government and partially the state government are constantly looking at ways to help support employers like you with some of those financial costs. So let's talk about this. It builds a skilled workforce. You talk about a stronger, more robust experience. Go back for one, please, Shawntel. You're okay. You're able to help shape who that employer is or who that employee is. It's a really in-depth experience, as opposed to relying on like, this is a shorter term experience, they're going to be gone soon. Of course, I know that's not how we and all of you talk, but it's a real investment into having a qualified employee. And of course, improves employee retention. Again, this is a more robust, more in-depth experience. And right away with an apprenticeship, what the feedback tends to be is employers can feel whether or not it's a culture fit early on, as opposed to 1 year in, 2 years in. We've all had employees before on our teams that kind of stick with the program, but they're not as well invested. Apprenticeships help provide some of that additional investment. It obviously reduces recruitment costs. Like I said, the state and federal government, Eastern Indiana Works as an intermediary. There's other organizations that offer support to kind of help expedite the front end process, so you're not doing a lot of that recruitment. Ascend actually has a talent network that you can tap into, where they post jobs, post apprenticeships, where an additional pipeline can kind of be tapped into. And apprentices contribute from day one. It doesn't look like you're a traditional employee. almost all employers that have successful apprentices report a strong ROI just because they add value immediately as opposed to a little bit over time. You can go to the next one now. Apprenticeships address skill shortages. I know, I really want some of those on the call to hone in on the parentheses around that first topic there. Because when people talk about apprentices, they always talk about plumbers, pipe fitters, electricians. They talk about the same things. But there's apprenticeships for high school principals. There's apprenticeships for teachers and paraprofessionals. There's apprenticeships for childcare. You can do an apprenticeship in just about anything. So we used to speak about the trades being apprenticeable occupations because we came from a kind of a 1990s, early 2000s ideal of college or career was the path, but we know that there's a lot of other paths for students now, as opposed to just going into those more, kind of dirty fingernail, so to speak, trade occupations. It runs anything from, like I said, plumbers, pipe fitters, welders, those types of things, all the way into education, into childcare. And like, again, I want to hit home here that just about everything is apprenticeable. So just because you don't have one, just because you've never thought you could have one, there's a definite route to getting an apprentice at your site. Again, we don't want to be duplicative here, but it does bring fresh perspectives. I think that's probably true for this generation of young people. It just is, and I know that going back, when we were younger, older generation would say the same thing about us as we're bringing new ideas. We live in a technological world. Things are changing quickly. We're trying to train for jobs of the future that we don't even know exist yet. These high school juniors and seniors are going to be the ones that bring those ideas, bring streamlined perspective, bring a culture with them that really adds value to you. This is kind of one of those fringe benefits of apprenticeships, is that it really shows the dedication to you taking on a person of value, deeply committed to developing to students and giving them opportunities. And again, not that any of our employers on the call, or any Wayne County employer for that matter, has a poor reputation, but it helps certainly boost that reputation when you take on an apprentice. When funding is available, which right now there is some, like I said, through the Department of Labor, and through some sometimes non-monetary support and advocacy through intermediaries like Eastern Indiana Works. Sometimes those grants support wage subsidies and related technical instruction. Just for instance, Apprenticeship Building America grant that's been going on for a couple of years now, that supported a few $1,000s of that related technical instruction. So when we talk about apprenticeships being partially on-the-job training, partially related technical instruction, usually the burden for those costs is 100% on the employer. But again, there's some state and federal grants that help support some of that. So now I'm going to turn over to Mark to talk about why organizational culture matters, how to build your reputation with internships, and how you can best be set up for success.
All right, so you've got a lot of information so far from Teresa and Wayne, and now we're going to dive directly into the organizational culture and what that looks like. A few steps along the way overall. So first, let's ask this question. What does your workplace feel like? So think about that right out the gate. What does that look like? What does that feel like? So shared values, behaviors, attitudes, what is that within your organization? How people treat each other day to day. So you know your culture better than anyone, or you should. And what is that? How does everyone treat each other for every single day overall? And then what's really happening, not just what's advertised. So, sometimes we put stuff out and it speaks like we're the best place ever, but really we have underlying issues sometimes. So what's really happening in your place? And that way you can totally understand that about your workplace. And then the culture is learned by watching leadership. So when you think about someone's coming in, a new hire, an intern, they're watching leadership and how they act. And that is going to drive that workplace, how it feels, how it functions overall. And then interns notice everything. This will be a theme across the board here several times. So interns are going to notice everything about that workplace. So kind of dissect everything that happens within your workplace. So then your interns, you know what your interns are seeing. And then on the right side there, you're going to see management versus workplace. Is there a disconnect? So do your leaders and employees share the same message? I work in HR. I can tell you sometimes employees have way different perceptions of different things that come out, different communication. Could be a benefit, could be the culture overall. Is it the same message as your leaders? Is everything aligned in that? And then are the expectations clearly communicated? So we've hinted on this already a little bit, but are the expectations across the board clearly communicated? Or is it like an intern comes and then there's this unwritten policy that's like, oh, the interns always should do this, but they don't really know. And then is respect shown at every level from top to bottom, left to right? Is respect shown at every single level? And this came up a bunch when we did the community dialogue and the sessions with the students. They weren't respected the same as others overall. So what does that look like in your organization overall? You head to the next slide there. So everyone knows their retention rate, what that looks like. If you have a very high retention rate, then that is really good. But if your turnover, you're replacing 3/4 of your staff year over year over year, then that you need to take a step back and look at that culture and why that is, because your intern and staff, they are going to repeat that and they're going to notice that. A Gallup poll was done. 2 in 10 U.S. employees feel connected to their company's culture. That is only 20%. So if you drive down the road, there's 10 houses, only 2 of those 10 are going to say, yep, I feel connected to that culture, for example. So 2 out of 10. So just think about that. What does that look like within your organization overall? And then employee perceptions about culture, connections, and values. So I feel connected with my organization's culture, and you see the 20%. You see they're in the 20s every single question overall. And this was a Gallup poll. This wasn't done by the chamber. This wasn't done by the EDC. This wasn't done by the state of Indiana. Gallup was across the entire country overall. So it's pretty interesting to see the percent that strongly agree is in that 20% range overall. So on this next slide here, your reputation starts with interns. You might say, I don't know about that. Does the reputation truly start with interns? I would say that it absolutely does. And it reaffirmed after we had discussions with students overall. So the students are going to share their experience. They are going to, if it's good or bad, it does not matter. They're going to share it. We're living in a time where information is transferred in minutes or seconds. It's no longer like, oh, I'll go home, tell my parents, or I'll tell someone else. They're going to tell everyone. If they have a really good day at work on their internship, they'll put it on their social media and the entire world will know. Something bad happens, same thing is going to happen. So students are going to share with their peers, with their families, with school staff, with future applicants. Your culture and what is said about you is going to be made or broken in a matter of moments, truly, because of the students. They're going, and your interns, they're going to quickly report back. So when you're looking at creating that right environment overall, flexibility is truly key. So Teresa hinted on this. We're in a little bit, I would say more than a little bit, we're in a much different time for students. They have schedules that are completely flexible. It's not you go to school for 8 hours anymore. So there's different paths for individuals. Even before this came out, and there's just a major shift that was happening. So we have to remember to be flexible. Could it be a hybrid? Could it be they show up to your office, maybe they work 5 days a week, 4 days they're working hybrid, they're working on different things. Maybe it's Excel or marketing or typing different things out. There's a number of things that can be done through technology. Maybe it's at the school then that barrier of transportation is alleviated because they can come to your place of employment 1 day a week. So just think about that. What does that look like? How could you craft that in different ways? Students balance school, work, and activities. This is enormous. Kids today, they are trying to balance all of those different initiatives, but they also want to be respected. They want to go and they want to learn and do things. I would say this is one of the greatest times right now is because students have so many options and they really have a fundamental way where they can set their path moving forward. They can go, they can do their activities, their school, their sports, but then also they can get into that work and then truly learn different things. They can then know, I absolutely do not want to be in healthcare. I want to do this occupation. They can experiment with that and be within that and know a lot sooner than in past. So things also to consider. So then adjusted schedules. So 2 hour delays, 8 hours, just different cancellations that come up. There's all kinds of things that come up within that school. We have now where sometimes you have a student where school is canceled in person, but then they have this hybrid, or they have where they take their tablets home. There's a lot of different options with that. And this is where the number one most important thing is communication and being flexible. Once you have that communication and that trust built within your students, your interns that you have, there could be projects maybe that they work on, or maybe they get that day off. It really just kind of depends on what culture you have built within that, and then that communication with that student, and what path you want to take. But then also you're going to have to also think about some students are going to come to you as an intern and they are not going to be the right fit. So think about that. When it happens, don't fret and be like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? This could be the greatest learning opportunity for that student. It might be a chance for them to go somewhere else, or maybe it's a attendance or a policy or something, not life and death, but then you're able to help mold them and shape them. They learn from that, and then they may never do that again the rest of their life. So you just help them get ready for that true workforce when they do graduate. So on the next page here, onboarding interns, I want you to think about just like a brand new employee, brand new full-time employee. You have to set them up for success. You can't expect an intern to come, a high school student, and just be able to hit the ground running. You have to treat them just like you would any other new hire. There has to be clear role and responsibilities. It could be they come in, they apply for a job online, but then you actually interview them. It could be that they need to do some other different things. Maybe it's references. Maybe you talk to their parent. Maybe there's just different things that could come up that you'd want to treat them just like an actual new employee. Number one, that helps them to understand what that normal process is. There's documentation they're going to have to bring into you, different things like that that will absolutely help them overall. But then also you're building that standard where you're saying, all right, you're an employee here now, and I'm going to treat you just like the rest of the team. Another thing, never forget when you have an intern to make sure you introduce them to the team. At least the key people around that they're going to be dealing with the most. There is times where we've heard stories, I know I have several times, where an intern learns only about two people, the person they directly connect with, and then maybe one other, but then they end up finding out this internship is with 5, 6 other people within the department, or they go to multiple departments. Make sure you introduce them to the team for that. And then the expectations and communication and behavior. What does that look like for your organization? Have you set those clear expectations? Maybe it's the communication. Then you have their cell phone number, but then also you're like, hey, I'm going to text you from time to time about, maybe it's a schedule, or maybe when they have weather delay or something comes up. Make sure you have all of that lined out so you know what that expectation is with them, but then also behavior. Every organization has different behaviors that need to be met, and it's all going to be different. Manufacturing is going to be much different than healthcare, and everything in between. So make sure you set that standard. And then also, let's say you're manufacturing, but your intern, you have intern A, and they work mainly in human resources, but intern B is working on the floor doing maybe quality or something. Those behaviors are going to be different. So make sure you're not just saying, hey, you work here, this is what this behavior is. Make sure it's also tied to where they're actually going to be. And then understanding workplace norms. You have a standard that you normally follow in your workplace norms. Make sure they're aware of that. especially when they're going to be going to different places within maybe a plant or an organization. Just understanding, set those up so they know what is expected and those workplace norms overall that are followed. And then strong or onboarding equals a confident intern. The better you onboard someone, the more you tell them and get them up to date, and you have set those examples and expectations and that communication. That is the more confident your intern is going to be, the more open they're going to be. They know what to do, they know what to expect, and then they're going to be able to be the best intern for you possible. So on the next one here, is the right manager for an intern. This is personally my favorite part of having an intern, is that leadership makes the difference in the world on this. Leading is not going to be an extra duty as assigned. I want you to think about you have staff members that you know that are going to be better for interns and some are not. But you also have staff that you're thinking, man, I don't know if that person should be promoted for this job or not. There is no better way than to understand someone as how they treat an intern. We have placed interns here with some different ones and tested people to see how they would lead. And it's a prime time to communicate clearly and often. How is that communication going? Are they doing it often? Are they coming to work and then they know what to do? Make sure then also you're building this up. And then also you're building your intern overall. So don't think in day one your intern is going to know everything and be able to do it all. Also don't completely dictate what they're going to do. You might have an intern, you think this is the path you're going to go down with them. They may have something that they take a liking to, or you find a strength that sometimes they don't even know they have. So help with that overall, and then always be inclusive and supportive. An intern is going to make a mistake from time to time. Things are going to happen, but also just remember we were there at one time. So make sure you're supportive to that intern. Make sure they're included in different things overall that happen, from meetings to maybe just going out to lunch. Make sure they're included in that. And then view your interns as a pipeline to future employees. Don't view your intern as just someone that's coming in to maybe complete a few things for an hour or two, and then they go home. They may not stay, they may go to college, but then eventually they will come back, or maybe a family member or a friend will come back, and then they will be your employer or employee rather. And then on the next one here, team, developing the strong intern teams. So lead by example. Everything you do in leadership, you're showing your intern what that looks like, what you want it to be. So you have to lead by example because they are watching everything possible within your organization and your leaders. Then encourage open communication. Again, don't shut down the communication. Make sure that it's completely open, no matter what it is. That needs to be completely open so they can ask questions and not feel that they're burdening you. Build those relationships up, not just with their your intern, but then also the school and so forth, because maybe you have the perfect intern here, then the school is going to know then what that looks like overall, or personalities, different things along those lines. Those relationships are going to be key. Value different viewpoints. You're going to have an intern you're going to have one day. You may not have had this happen yet, but they're going to have completely different viewpoints. I'm not saying you're going to start a political debate. I'm just saying you're going to assign them a project, and then they're going to have a completely different viewpoint on it. Like, we should do it this way. And sometimes those viewpoints are actually completely 110% valid, and that's the route you need to go. Especially I've seen when it comes to technology, there's ways to do things that we haven't even thought of for that. An example would be marketing. There's ways that, people think marketing should be only in these like certain areas, but the youth and others, they have where they actually fall and look and understand different things. Always ask for feedback. Do a one-on-one with your intern. We do here about every 6 months because typically we have an intern for roughly a year or 9 months. Maybe it's every quarter. Maybe it's just you go to lunch every so often. Just ask for that feedback. Ask for what they want to do, what they've learned, their pain points they've had so far, and then different perspectives spark innovation. Just remember that innovation comes in a lot of different ways. So the more different perspectives you have, the better. So team building, belonging, and recognition. This is a huge one, especially with this generation and moving forward. Help interns feel completely included. So retreats, luncheons, volunteer events. Most employers, they have these in some capacity. I'm not saying you have to pay for your intern to go on a retreat somewhere. I know some employers that are larger, they actually have done this in the past. But when you have a staff luncheon and you don't include an intern, they're gonna be like, I thought I was part of the team. Spending a little bit of money on a lunch is going to go a long way to building that trust, and not just the first intern, but the next one, and your perception overall as your company. Volunteer events, any community work that you do, interns, absolutely. Most of them love to be able to go and do that, and then builds camaraderie amongst your team overall. Maybe you have a golf outing you participate in, or different team activities. Include them within that, if they do want to participate within that. And then invite them when events are outside school hours. So sometimes you have events maybe in the evening or different ones. There's absolutely no problem with, saying, hey, we have this event. Do you want to help with that? Just it goes a long way just to even ask. They may say no, but even to be asked and to be heard and felt like that goes a long way. And then fair pay. This is something that is really important, because you're going to have an intern. If you pay them one set wage, but then they go and their friends are making a different one, maybe it's like $5 more or something. Now, I'm not saying you have to pay them the most. Just make sure that it's fair and it makes sense with that. Because they're going to communicate overall, and then they're going to communicate not just with their friends, but their family members as well. And then that's going to create that perception with that. Thank you notes. There's nothing better than writing a thank you note to your interns or to the schools or different individuals. Make sure you take a moment and just say thank you to them. Again, lunch and small perks. I can't say that enough. Just remember those birthdays and different things that come up. Just make sure you take advantage of those. And then public recognition. Make it a big deal about when maybe your intern wins something, or they're on the sectional basketball team, or whatever the case is. Make sure you make a big deal about that. Put it on your board for your organization, or even on social media. That will go a long way. And not just supporting that intern, but then their family and then their community. And it goes on from there on a huge ripple effect on making a big, big difference overall. And then creating that positive word of mouth will change everything for you. And then encourage growth and exposure. So let your interns see the bigger picture. There's going to be some times when you have meetings and they absolutely cannot be in that meeting. But there are some, I would say majority of meetings where an intern could come and they could learn a lot from participating in that meeting. How is the meeting structured? How does it happen, and what's discussed and all of that? So use good judgment on that, but the more you can include them, the more they can learn. You're really looking at the bigger picture overall and helping them to grow overall. Then include them on field trips. So maybe you have a different sites within your organization. Take them with you on that. Or maybe you serve on a board. Maybe there's community meetings. Maybe you're just going to lunch with someone and you say, hey, can I bring my intern with you? And they just bring them with you. It goes, again, a long way to learn about communication, those smaller skills that you don't think about. That really most people didn't learn until maybe they went to college or they graduated and they learned the hard way on their first job. There's a lot of ways, and then that also could open the door. Maybe the person you're going to lunch with is the person that will end up hiring the individual to stay within Wayne County and to work here. And then expose them to careers, connections. They're going to come as an intern. There's going to be maybe they are coming for one career, and then they're going to learn that they absolutely just don't like that one. They want to go somewhere else. This happens, I would say, a lot within healthcare, because healthcare, it's doctors, nurses, all of that, but then you have all the backside of it. So we've had individuals that come, they thought they wanted marketing, and then next thing you know, they're like, you know what, I actually like nursing and all of that. So then they went to school to be a nurse. And it could go the opposite way. Um, Maybe someone wants to be in finance after they are like, hey, you know what, I didn't even know this, but I like numbers. It's a lot different than math class at school. So just be open to that and listen to them when you ask questions. They may find something they didn't realize they like, and then exposure builds engagement and ambition. Again, the more you expose them, the more you build that engagement with them, you're going to have better communication, and then their ambition overall on where they want to go, what they're going to do for you, and then for themselves, as you'll see, increase over time for you. And then I'm going to let Shawntel take it from here on the last couple slides and open up for questions.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Mark. Great job. All right, so call to action. As we wrap up the session, a few key actions just to take away, maybe ask yourself, be part of the solution. Shape your future workforce. How does this strengthen your business? How do you invest in Wayne County students? Again, that was just the number Teresa gave. That's just the junior class becoming seniors next year. That's not talking about the sophomore class that are going to be juniors that are also looking for some internship hours. So again, there's going to be a lot of students in Wayne County. How do we build that lasting impact here in the community? That's huge. Partner with us, the chamber, partner with this work-based learning team right here and help us grow that talent locally. And then when employers invest in interns, they don't just support students, they are building their future workforce. And again, it goes back to community and what we're building here in Wayne County. So just a few call to action items I wanted to make sure to highlight from our discussion. Such good conversations. A few other things. So next steps. So kind of give you guys an idea of how the position I'm in is working. I had to create a timeline, and I had a great partner that sat down with me, and we really had to talk a lot of things through just to try to see what this second semester looks like for students. With that said, with this piece of internships, we're going to start having interviews. So the employers will start sharing, the job descriptions, job titles. The students are going to apply for those positions, and then you're going to be able to interview the students that you would like to intern with you. So to do all of that, we had to put a timeline together and what that would look like. So for the second semester, I'm pulling up my timeline real quick. This is for the juniors that will be going into senior year next year. So kind of where we're at. We're doing our outreach right now and training, which is with you guys, the employers. We're going to then have you guys help create what those job descriptions look like. Once we have those, we are going to upload them into a database where then the students can then start applying. Once they apply for those, then you will receive back the applications from those interns applying. So again, this is a short window. So starting from January up to March. And then with that, we hold a hiring / now intern fair. It's always been in the past. It's always in April. It is for any seniors that do not have postgraduate plans. So many of our employers come, they interview the seniors, they gain employees from them because a lot of students do not know what they're doing the day after graduation. So this just kind of helps them acclimate, get ready for the real world. With that said, we're now going to add in an internship piece. So when they apply and you say, I want to interview, 5 students, I want to interview all 5 of these students, we're going to start hosting it at the same time as the hiring fair. So then we don't have to worry about students having transportation. The buses can bring them to the fairgrounds. You guys can come sit down with the students, take about 8 minutes, ask some questions, have a conversation, and then you can give me your feedback on, hey, I like this student. This is who we would like to offer an internship with. And then it will go from there. So just kind of a real quick overview of what that timeline looks like. And again, I can share more of this out with you guys later, but just wanted to give you a timeline. After that, so we get the timeline, the job descriptions. We are currently working on a database. And with this database, it will be a spot for the employer, a spot for the school, and then I'll be sitting in the middle of that. The employer will have one main contact at your organization. It's a very simple login. You'll go in, it'll be a universal, basically kind of application, a universal form. You'll put what the job title is, what the job description is, and then there's just a few other questions. We are trying to make this very simple because we know, again, time is precious. Some people, some businesses just don't have the time or the extra employers are already short-staffed. So we are making this as simple as can be. Once you enter that information into the database, it will then be shared with the school. The students will be able to go on and they will have a filter, but they will also have a universal application that they will apply on. So then when you receive that application, it will look exactly the same for each student. Again, simple for the employer, simple for the school. Once we have that piece, again, I already mentioned we will be doing the interviewing for the hiring at the hiring and intern fair. And then some other things to come are forms. So we are making universal forms that will be then completed by the employer, myself, and the schools. Some of those will even have to have parent consent on them. But again, we're doing a lot of things universal. So hopefully this helps flow the process through easier for you guys, less work. And again, once we get everything tweaked out, I think it'll just be a smoother process. So those are some of the things that I have coming forward. We are going to send out a work-based learning. Sorry, I have to do it this way because I can't read my screen half the time. Well, I thought I had it up. So we have a work-based learning agreement form I'm going to send out. It is going to highlight everything that we discussed today, and it will give you some other information to fill out, just kind of, where are you at in the process of interns? Do you currently host interns? Do you want to host an intern, but you're not sure you have the capability? Just some things that will help me help you guys going forward. So I will be sending that out as well. So I'm going to ask for all of you to complete that and then send it back. So then that way I can make connections with each of you. And then if there's somebody when you fill that form out, if there's somebody else that, I should directly speak to as well, please include their information. So that way I'm, making the right contacts when I do reach out. Just trying to find one more form just so I could show you what you'll be receiving. There it is. Okay. So this is, that's not it. I lied. 1 second. You guys are doing great. Yeah, I'm not sure where I stuck that at. So I will have to, nope, I just found it. I thought I had everything up. Somehow I closed it. Okay, here it is. So this is what the form looks like that I'm going to be following up with. It's just an employer commitment. Again, there's not a contract, so I'm not asking you guys to sign everything and this is what we're going to do, but it's just kind of an agreement. So then that way I can start entering information into our database, start reaching out more directly, having better conversations with you individually, and making sure we're going forward correctly. There's going to be forms as we move forward that have been created, but some of you employers are going to see things that we might not have. So getting your feedback and reviewing them and say, Shawntel, did you think about this? Or, maybe we should put this in there as well. So some of that stuff I will need your guys' feedback on. But this is what the agreement will look like. It just, again, discusses everything we kind of mentioned today, employer responsibilities, what to expect in the workplace, ensuring the safety during their experience, what you guys are agreeing to help with. Then, again, also coming up with training agreement and training plan overview. And then this is the form I'm going to ask you to complete and returned. Again, it's just sharing your information with me. Interest in work-based learning, hosting internships. Yes, we are interested. Likely we are. maybe, nope, not at this time. So again, just getting that information back to me so I can really start moving forward with this process. As you've seen with the timeline, we are moving quickly because it's happening. I mean, this is where we're at. The Employee Coalition, when we worked on the last piece, and we were doing some sessions, it was kind of letting the employers know of what was coming, what we knew was going to happen. But now we are to the point of this is happening. This is where we're at. We do need our employers to partner with us, start getting these students into locations next year. So that will come. And then I think that's pretty much, yeah. So that's pretty much all the things I had to discuss, except, just saying thank you to my partners that helped out today. And again, they're great partners in the community. They know what they're talking about. If I'm not available and you have a quick question, I guarantee any one of them would take your phone call and direct you in the right direction. So with that said, does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Please don't be shy. Was this maybe helpful, beneficial? I see a thumbs up.
Yeah, if you guys could just give us some feedback on what you feel like you would need to be able to move forward, it will help Shawntel and Mark and Wayne and I as we try to tweak this training because we want this to live for a while. We have a lot of students that need work-based learning opportunities, and so we want to make sure that we're getting information to you guys that you need to be able to consider engaging in this process with us.
Jill just asked from Cutting Edge, she said, what if you have workplace specific, oh, hold on, I just lost it. What if you have, another one popped in and took over, specific training like in healthcare with HIPAA and bloodborne pathogens? So is that something they have to, those are forms they have to sign off on, or is that training they have to have?
So whenever we host like grad students for their clinicals, that is training that we have to have completed and done before they are allowed to come in for clinic stuff. Because obviously they'll come in, they'll see patients, they cannot break HIPAA, otherwise that's a big legal issue.
So
Mark, do you guys have?
Yeah, so here we treat them just like a new hire. So we do that training. Ours is watching a video and doing some other thing. It's done in not really that long, but it's just part of that onboarding process with us, what we do. Healthcare is more difficult than a lot of places because you have bloodborne pathogens, HIPAA, other stuff you have to do.
Right. So would there be a way for like, hey, we've interviewed, we've selected you, time for onboarding for those students prior to the start date?
Correct. So, yeah. So what, like with the timeline that I briefly showed, once you've made your selection, then I share it with the school. The student will then accept the position. And then at that point, it will be the forms that will need to be completed with the employer. So then anything that needs to be done in between there would be after the hiring would be between you guys. My goal, and I know again, this timeline is short right now because we're just throwing a lot at the second semester, but to have all of that done before their last day of school. So then that way, when school starts, that very first day, they're ready to hit the ground running to wherever they're interning at. This year might look different because of that window. But that's kind of the long-term goal. And I do know, I was going to show you real quick what I can share this with you. This is a visual. So this is what the students will see. Again, when they go into the database, just like you guys, this first section will always be populated. So whenever they sign in, bam, it's already filled out. What they're going to have to do then is share like 3 of their career interests, long-term career goals or interests. So then that way, when you, the employer, are reading their application, you can see if some of that aligns with what you want and if that gives you an interest to interview them. Along with that, we're going to give them a section to upload their resume. So then that way you can see more information. But then that's what the student application looks like. And I'm going to show you what the employers looks like for right now. This might help too. And again, this helps with the question you just asked. I'm sorry. I'm going to do better at this. Oops. Alexis probably has it right at her fingertips.
I can pull it up if you need me to.
I'm looking for the universal one for the employer. Do you have it up?
Give me like 2 seconds.
Okay. I thought I had it right up here.
Well, I'm going to answer Jerry's question while you guys are looking
Okay,
for that.
you go ahead.
Okay. So Jerry asked, are there funds to pay for things like drug testing, background checks, or specific types of clothing? So we are trying to work on a way to be able to do that. It's funding gets questionable, as everyone on this call knows, but our office is looking at a couple of things that I haven't really shared with the group yet, but we're trying to find something that we can have that would be able to assist, because we know that's a big expense for people.
Good to know.
Yeah, and I wanted to say out loud, I didn't put in the chat, but those are things that Eastern Area Works kind of routinely supports for folks that are enrolled in our program. I mean, they're all, even if we're looking at an adult job seeker that's like, hey, I start this new job soon, but they want me to buy uniforms, they want me to buy boots, or I need to get a drug test. That's something that's part of our bread and butter, so to speak. The only downside is they have to be eligible and enrolled in our program, which not all students or adults are always eligible. And that's something we can assess. And I wanted to address Deanna's question too about different schedule options for some of the kids. But I'm only saying this because I have a high school student that's doing work-based learning, and school looks very different than it used to. Like Mark mentioned, they're not just at a seat from 7:30 to 3:30. Schools are being very flexible with kids that want to do co-ops or internships or some type of work-based learning off campus. So my daughter goes in at 6:30 and is done by 8:30. We'll go to school for a couple hours, go back to her co-op or her work-based learning, and then go back to school to wrap up the day. And then it's typically done by the end of a normal day. So I can tell you, yes, definitively, the schools are going to be flexible, because as Teresa said, the schools will be getting paid for these students that get the graduation skills. So they want to be able to work with you, to work with all employers on a flexible plan so that students can graduate with these diploma requirements.
And along that line too, Dana, so here is a view of the universal employer submission. So we're going to ask each employer to complete this. And again, it'll look, again, universal. So every time the student logs in, they're looking at the exact same form for every employer. We want to make it simple for them. So again, you put your business name, your contact information, and every time you log in, this will also autofill as well. Not all of your locations are going to have a lot of different job titles. Some of you might just have one. You look at Reed, they're going to probably have maybe 50. They're going to be at a different area than a lot of our other businesses. So you might only just have one that you have to complete each year. Maybe you have more than one job title or a couple different areas. Maybe like Mark mentioned earlier, maybe one's on the floor in the plant, maybe one's an administrative office. So we'll have you fill out the job title. Just an overview, something simple about the position overview, their key responsibilities, the skills gained. So, what skills, knowledge, competencies will the student learn? And then with that, we also created for the employers to list, what kind of position is this? Is it going to be on site? Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be hybrid, remote, or a group project? I know I've had one business reach out to me. We sat down and they said, we don't have the capability of hosting students here, but we love the idea of group project. So that's what they're going to be working on. So that might be better for you guys. We also put on here for the employer to complete the availability position. So, is the student available only in the AM, only in the PM? Are they flexible for both AM and PM? Is it only going to be after school? Is it going to be just a summer internship or all of the above? It doesn't matter. The student's interested and can make it work. So this will help kind of like with that question, Deanna, because when students are applying, they're going to be able to see, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that because it's only AM and that runs into something at the school or it's a conflict. So hopefully that will kind of eliminate some of the issues and won't have to make the employers interview more students than they need to because the student's not going to be able to work with their schedule. We also listed on here, is it paid or unpaid? Some students, they're going to love the paid. Some students, they're not going to care because they know they need the hours if it's unpaid. So we also put that as a option for the employer. And then kind of like with Jill, and some of these we might have to tweak, but we also put on here some of the things the students need to know. So with your employment, are you going to offer, do you offer background and security checks? So when the student's applying, they're going to know right off the bat that, oh, I've got to do a background check to work here. Same thing with the health safety. We put those on there as well for them to know, okay, so I'm going to have to complete this to work there. Confidentiality and legal forms. They have to know there's an NDA. Can they do that? If they say they check it, then yes, they can. So again, technology and equipment, we put some things on there. Do the students need anything before they arrive on that first day? What is it they need? So hopefully some of that will eliminate some of those questions when the students fill out the application for you guys, for the employer. And again, looking through this, and I can share it with you guys, if you see things you think, we should really know this, let me know. We are trying to make this one very simple, just kind of right to the point. And then when you interview them, some of those other questions would probably be better suited for the interviews. On the interview piece, we also know not all students will be able to come to the hiring intern fair. So those students that you would like to interview, we can set those up separately. They can come to your location, just kind of like students do now. They have an interview, we'll just say at Americana in Centerville. They have to go there for that. So that can also happen. Maybe it's virtual. Whatever works for you as an employer to interview them is what's going to be easiest. Any questions on that? The universal application?
Shawntel, did you see Jill's follow-up?
No, I'm going.
Okay. We've had it happen before, Jill, in places that are currently doing internships. There are some kids, it's just not a good fit in your organization. And so that's when you would reach out to Shawntel and she can reach out to the school and we'll look at where could be another opportunity for them to go.
Yeah. And we know, like Trish said, we know it's going to happen. I mean, you guys hire people now that you think is going to be a great fit, and then you get them in, you're like, no, not going to work. So it's going to be the same thing with the interns. My biggest takeaway is I'd rather that happen to a student in high school than when they're out of high school in the workforce. So I know Wayne talked about furthering with, having those discussions with the students afterwards and where can they go next. But it's important for those kids to know, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This isn't what I want to do. Let's move them to somewhere else they should be and then get you the right fit. So it's going to happen. I'd rather it happen in high school to a kid than after high school. All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, enjoy the rest of your day. Some of you will see Friday at the annual dinner. If not, I'm sure I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.